G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's the podcast episode 23. Got a fair bit to talk about, but I want to talk about it pretty quickly. So here we go. The Burton to centre, we're going to talk about that. So the Telegraph's reporting that it's been strongly considered by Bulldogs. No Taukieaho ruled out by medical. Breaking news on Channel 9 News tonight through Danny Weirdler. Although Reed Mahoney confirmed it yesterday that he was part of our team through a David Riccio article. Was that more messing with the media from the Bulldogs players, which I saw a fair bit of it last year and I alluded to it, or is just Riccio filling in the gaps and putting names where none were actually mentioned? Mitchell Wood staying with the Dogs, which is fantastic for our club. We'll talk a bit about him. Raymond Fatala-Mariner back at training. Top 30 set. Taupine's still in it, although reports coming out that he was paid our last game for us. I don't know where the reports come from. I've just seen it on the Bulldogs groups. And some juniors leaving, the Johansson brothers, which I was pretty upset about. Tim's performance in the grand final, I felt really helped. Without him, we wouldn't have won. But there you go. They're the main things we'll talk about. We'll get it done pretty quickly. So we'll have a look through the top 30, the way it sits as well. But Taukieaho, let's talk about that. He's left the club. He hasn't left the club. He's not coming to the Bulldogs. Now, yesterday in the article of David Riccio, Reed Mahoney mentioned Taukieaho and a number of others as how their experience would be valuable coming to our club. He may have just said the new recruits. So sometimes, like, for example, Riccio might say, with the likes of Hutchinson, Salmon, Taukieaho, and all these others, they're bringing so much experience. What's that going to mean for your club? And then Reed might just answer the question. And then when they table it, they sort of table it like Reed's offered up this information. Could have been that. Could have been a slip up from him, but the media often... a lot of times you're only hearing responses without hearing the question. And sometimes the question comes part of the response in an article unless they quote it. And I don't think I'm not sure if it was quoted or not, but it seemed like it was. A lot of us people and administrators on groups and stuff, me included, went out there and said, obviously, if the captain's saying it, it must be official. Day later, egg on all of our faces, ripped it down. We move on. Look, while I've 100% supported him coming based on our circumstances, no one there, we need experience. Felt his game was great in the grand final. Well, it wasn't great, but I felt it was really good positive signs. Hit real hard. Belted some blokes early. Got belted as well, but stayed involved, didn't go away. He's a winner and a leader, team player, and a captain of the Tongan team. I felt, it's worth the risk. 500 grand over 2 years, like 500 grand a season for 2 years, easily manipulated and sorted. But the Dogs, apparently last week he failed a medical test on his foot that he just suffered in the preseason. They're like, nah, he can't come. Dodged a bullet. People are worried and concerned. Their thoughts are 100% validated. They were right. If he'd come to our club and pass that medical, there's a big chance he could have got injured pretty easily. And it's probably a blessing in disguise. So there we go. No Taukieaho. We move on. But the top 30 is pretty much set. Let's have a look at that. Now, it was said that Reed Mahoney wouldn't be... it was said that Jackson Topine has played his last game with the Bulldogs. And if you'd listen to the original media reports that the player who had walked out of the club and yada yada, which was Jackson, a sensitive issue, but it was him. It wasn't because he couldn't handle training standards. That's a separate issue. It was based on a punishment he was given and how that affected him. Plus, there would have been other situations as well and other things, which we talked a lot about. But obviously sometimes you go to a point where there's no going back, and I think that's this situation here. Raymond Fatala-Mariner could be another situation that's like that. He too, just like Jackson, very vocal on how much they love the club. And that's felt by the fans. We want to see players passionate about the jersey. That Aaron Schopp said the similar sort of stuff, but then was gone. So Big Ray, it could be a case that it could be a redemption story for Ray. He's come to training. If he trains hard, gets an opportunity, plays hard, and shows his worth, that's what's going to make other teams want him, and that's what's going to make the Bulldogs want to keep him potentially. It'll all be forgotten. You start playing well, contributing to better performances on the team and on the field for the team, and that was basically where it fell down. Big Ray wasn't performing to his potential, and whether that's because of the injuries that he'd suffered and the layoff that he had prevented him from getting to that era and getting to that sort of level, and it was a bit of a struggle, and all that other stuff come into it. The new kids on the block going ahead of him, could all be a learning experience. Could be a chance that things do settle down. He's had a lover's tiff with the club and with the coaches, and he comes in, they suck it up, trains hard, gets an opportunity, earns his worth, everything's forgotten. Especially if we start winning and he's a reason for it. He goes, if he has to play New South Wales Cup, which would be hard for him to do, I'm sure of it. But if he did, he goes out there and absolutely kills it and leads the way and bangs the door down where they have to pick him. All kudos to him, because that's what's going to appeal to his career. That's what's going to work. Nothing else is going to work. Not now. So with all this stuff about the cameraman being there and all this sort of stuff, and whether it was Big Ray who had organised that to try and push the club into a corner and all this sort of stuff, well, that's not going to work. And maybe that's not what happened. But at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to work is training hard, working hard, and earning your place. And there'll be people watching. If he's in New South Wales Cup, or if they might send him to a Ron Massey Cup. I don't know if he's able to play Ron Massey. But if he goes there and plays well, someone will see. That's the only thing that's going to work, I think, for him and for Canterbury. And the resolution might be, hopefully, that we're playing so well and he's a contributor to that all's forgotten and we move on. Because I'm telling you, it will be forgotten. When the Dogs start winning, a lot of this stuff will be forgotten. So there you go. Reese Hoffman, who was wild, he was in our top 30 for next year. It was there every week. He's not on this NRL list. This NRL list, I'm pretty sure, is maintained by the NRL. It may, with the information they get from the clubs, but it may not be 100% accurate. But we've got 31 players here. Tavita Pangai is the 31st player. He's not in the club. That's obviously an oversight. Don't worry about that. So Zach Montgomery's been upgraded from Flegg into the top 30. Katoni Katoga, that was part of his deal. He was going to be upgraded to the top 30. And we also have Jordan Samrani. Now, the development list includes players like Bailey Haywood, which I'll look at. This knock-on effect New South Wales Cups, it hasn't been updated. The likes of Bailey Haywood, Ethan Kai Ward's gone. Joseph O'Neill's on development. So's Josh Papali'i. Reese Hoffman's still on this one. He might be on a second-tier contract still with the Dogs. Not sure. Khaled Rajab maybe on a development contract. I think Damon Marshall might be on a development contract. I think Harrison Edwards is on a second-tier New South Wales Cup contract. Curtis Moran is on a development contract for 2 years. Not sure what's happening with Ryan Gray, Zach Hetherington and the like. Then you got these youngsters, Danny Gabrielle. Fami Tolalo, haven't seen much of him. Lachlan Vale. Timmy Johansson, he's gone. So, Tim and his brother, Tim Johansson's performance off the bench in the grand final in Jersey Flegg, we wouldn't have won it without him. He had some really good games. He played a bit in Ron Massey Cup. He played in Jersey Flegg. I think he even got a go in New South Wales Cup. I'd say he did. Very good player, lots of energy. He was playing. They were with the Newcastle club, come to Canterbury. To me, showed like they'd earned a spot, but obviously, whether it's a decision they've made based on things that they see coming for Canterbury and their pathway, they might see some hurdles there that they think might be too hard to overcome. They might be more money on the table with a similar pathway to first grade. You never know. Never know what these things are, but I would have made them a priority, but you can't keep them all. And I just felt the fact we're lacking some forwards and these guys seem to be... I just felt the energy he played with, and the games that I saw him play, he was a standout. Absolute standout. And I think the club would have been good if they kept him, but he has left. I've had confirmation that he's left Canterbury, which is no good. Anyway, him and his brother are both left for 2024. Really happy about Bailey Biondioto staying in the top 30. Fought so hard. To me, he could be way up the ladder as far as the pecking order goes. But he's still there with an opportunity, and if he busts down the door in New South Wales Cup, we could be seeing the rise of a very good player. That's what I hope. I want to see. May or may not happen. He can pretty much do it all. Short kicking game is really good. His tackle efficiency is really good too. That was there last year. 93% from 294 tackles made. That was in 2021. 2022, 95%. Only missed 4 tackles out of 93 made. And ran the footy when he got his opportunities. So that was in 2021 and 22. Didn't really get much opportunities, hardly got any minutes, but contributed a heck of a lot. And this kid can tackle. Someone was telling me that his defence wasn't good, and I'm like, well, his efficiency is pretty high if you ask me, for a youngster. But there you go. He's had 17 games in the top grade, only experienced the winning feeling on 2 occasions, which is no good. But there you go. 2 wins, 15 losses. But Bailey, I really hope he gets an opportunity with the Bulldogs. Blake Taff, listed as a halfback. See, and these listings on the NRL side will get some people filling out their top 17s and putting this guy as their fullback, because he's the only one really listed as a fullback. 11 line breaks from 11 matches last year for 6 tries. 47 tackle breaks. 4 try assists. Missed a few tackles, but he's on the wing. Yeah, so don't pay too much attention to what their positions are here. Seems like we've got a heap of halves and Drew Hutchinson half. How many halfbacks we got? 1, 2, 3, 4 halfbacks, 5 halfbacks, and 1, 2, 3, 3 5/8. Matt Burton. They say he's going to centre. He's had 71 career appearances for 30 tries. Most tries scored in the centres, obviously with Penrith. His goal kicking rate for last year, 84.5%. I think that's something that a lot of people did not realise. He forced 14 dropouts, 16 try assists, 13 line break assists. Tackle efficiency needs to improve for Matty. Averaged 82 running metres as a 5'8" and a halfback, which isn't too bad. I don't see why in the hell we would even consider it. But in our wins, kick meters, 521 against the Storm, 261 against the Tigers, 601 against the Cowboys, 400 against the Dragons, 280 against the Titans, 120 versus the Rabbitohs. That's when Sexton came in, and Sexton did most of the kicking that night. 382 versus the Dolphins. So they really mixed it up the way they used him for the kicks. There were a lot of games when Oluwapu come in where they premeditated him doing the kicking, and I felt it cost us. It was like they're playing to develop Carl rather than, and playing to this game plan where he was going to do this and that. But just I don't think it worked to our benefit too often at all. Forced dropouts, pretty consistent through the year. In the back half, we only had 4 in like the last from round 15 to round 27, but there were quite a few that went dead. Try assists pretty consistent across the board. Line breaks, made a few. Always good for a tackle break. And, I really like Matty Burton. I think he's a really good player. And he ran the footy as well. If you compare his running meters and everything to some of the better players in the comp and his actual statistics, he was up there he's a top 8 half for sure. And at his age and his experience, he's only going to get better and better. So to mess with that now, all this talk that he needs to go back to being a centre to become a better 5'8" in the long run and all this sort of stuff, that makes sense when you've got better options in the halves. Right now, the best way to learn as a half is to play half. Play 6 or 7. I think it's just they know how much this is a debate amongst the fraternity, the rugby league. I love saying fraternity. People in Canterbury saw how he played as a centre, saw that he did it well, saw him make breaks, saw him run, saw him get good footy off good field position, saw him get put through gaps from his own end and score good long-range tries. He's got the physical build for it. But who's going to get him the ball? How are we going to assert field position and have teams under the ruck where they don't move up in a straight line and get exploited that way? Like, are we going to be able to strip him of numbers and put him into gaps and give him the opportunities at centre? Because I think he's a player that did that for others. Who's going to do that for him? Stephen Crichton? I think the game of chess is going to be very important here, and I can't see it panning out with him in the centres. And I think what they'll say is that Crichton will play fullback, Taff will go into the halves, and they bring up a Samrani or a Skelton to start the season in the centres, or Karaz plays centres straight up. Which will probably happen. Maybe Cherry's ready to play round 1, and they're happy to let him start straight into the side. He might be ready to go. He may or may not. We have to see. We have to see how this preseason pans out. But a lot of questions, and some pretty good problems to have, I guess. But for me, the the team that I've been putting out there, which is Taff with Addo Carr and Crichton, Bronson Cherry and Carraz with Sexton and Burton. That's been pretty much the team I've seen come out the most, and I agree with that side. Has been close to our best 17, or being our best 17 once they get established. Our best back seven, anyway. I don't think that's how they're going to go. I think they're going to go with Crichton at fullback. I think they'll do it. I don't want them to do it, but I think they will do it. And I think Taff will go into the halves, potentially, with Sexton. Or Taff won't be in the halves, and they'll put Drew Hutchinson in. I think we'll see both Jamin Salmon and Kurt Mann playing off the bench. I think Jamin Salmon will be playing the Ockenball role. And we'll see the likes of one of the big boys here, Hughes or Chris Patolo, with Ryan Sutton as the other two. Or even Raymond Fatala-Mariner if he's playing well. It'll be interesting to see. So congratulations to the players who have been elevated. Curtis Moran's on the development, as I said. And Harrison Edwards is on the second tier contract. He might be a player that pushes for a top 30 if young Jackson Topine here does leave the club. So there's lots to be discussed and talked about. But this Burton to centre business, look, unless our forwards are going forward, you need a player like him in the halves doing the big work. With the big boot out of trouble kept us in games. Like the Cowboys game that we won. Without Burton, we don't win that game. Without his kicking in that game, we don't go close to winning it. And he wasn't right to start that season. I think that Matty Burton is going to be fitter and stronger to start the season, pending getting an injury in the preseason. He's got those injuries behind him. There's no off-season surgery as far as I know this year. He's ready to go. And he should be out there kicking hard. If that's the case, with a fit Viliami Kikau beside him, a fit Fox, we've all had a good break, right, this year. That left edge is going to be lethal. You whack Stephen Crichton into the left centre and have Blake Taff running around the back. And I tell you what, you've got yourself a pretty fast and decent side. And I don't mind having the likes of Hayes Perham playing in reserve grade. Trying to play really well in reserve grade and push for a spot in first grade. That's what I'd rather see. I think if that happened last year, Hayes Perham would be in a better position than he's in right now. I believe that. But anyway, I'm not going to mention Jake Averillo again. Oh, I just mentioned Jake Averillo. Sorry, guys. Carlo Lawapu, probably won't see much of him. He's still working out what options he's going to take. There's a chance that young Jordan Samrani or Jarrell Skelton could find themselves to start in first grade. And the smoky will be Blake Wilson to start. I think the likelihood is that we'll have Wilson on a wing or Taff with Crichton at fullback. And in the centres having young Jacob Kiraz, and probably I think they might go with Drew Hutchinson in the centres to start the season. It's just the way they think they do it. I think they'll go Crichton, Blake Taff, Jacob Kiraz, Drew Hutchinson, and the Fox. And then I think they'll start with Burton and Sexton in the halves. That's how I think they'll do it. They'll put young Blake Taff on the wing. If not, Blake may even find himself in reserve grade and Wilson to start on that wing. I don't think it'll end that way. I think this fella, Bronson Cherry, will get his game together pretty quickly, get his contact, get everything working well, and be ready to go halfway through the season, most likely. But who knows? Hopefully he's ready to go and he's busting down doors by the time the trials start. That's what we want to see. I don't think we'll be blessed with another Jacob Preston this year. I think we'll be lucky to have the one Jacob Preston. But to bring Josh Curran into that squad, the energy, the effort, the purpose, Liam Knight wanting to be the leader of the club, Max King, who's already established himself as someone who will play with injury every week and try his best, and pretty consistent 7 out of 10 performer week on week. If you can get him to be an 8 or an 8.5 every week, then you're really going somewhere. Reed Mahoney needs to be more trusting of the playmakers around him. Needs to not try and take on so much of the responsibility. It all starts with him. He just needs to bring people into the game and stay connected with his middle in defence, and they need to be connected with him, obviously. But some of the stuff in his article, I think it was right. I think he tried too hard in games. He took on too much and become, in some parts, detrimental to our performance. But in other parts, obviously leading the way and sorting us out. And he's a very positive player. He played with a lot of positivity, which I liked. Sometimes it was just fantasy, though, if that makes sense. And Big Bill Kigao. So there you go. That's our top 30. Back. So, not much more to talk about this week. As I said, unhappy about the Johansson brothers leaving the Dogs. Might see them again one day. I think we're going to have 29 players in our top 30 for a while. I'm not sure if they'll get anyone, if anyone's there. Hopefully someone like a Paul Vaughan can come back, but that's just pie in the sky stuff from me. I'd happily... No disrespect to Ryan Sutton. I think he's a really strong player. I love some of the ways he tackles. I like his tackling technique. He hits hard, and his one-on-one hits last year were big. And a lot of it went unnoticed, but Paul Vaughan, he's just 8 or 9 years in a row, the same stats. He just plays to the same standard every week. Such a consistent player. And to me, someone we should never have let go. But there you go. Thanks to everyone who subscribed. We're continually moving up. I think 658 now or something like that. And I'll put out we'll do a player watch on Drew Hutchinson, maybe on Jake Turpin as well this week. Then we'll look at Jamin Salmon and all the others that have come as well. And maybe some of these young guys as well as part of this new breed. They only go for like 4 or 5 minutes each, so easy to watch. But like and subscribe and all that. Thanks for tuning in. Lessons learned. If it's coming from the Foxtel media, it's very, very much hit and miss, but most of the time it's miss. Channel 9 seem to be set up pretty well by the Dogs to get the exclusives. But still, I wouldn't be giving Danny Wilder anything if the way he went on at Josh Adokar, to me, was disgusting. And he's gone way down the pecking order again. So I'll be watching him very, very closely. Because, what do they say? They never change their stripes. A tiger never changes its stripes, or leopard doesn't change its spots. I don't know what it is, but I don't forgive too easily when it comes to Josh Adokar. I love the Fox, and so does the fan base, so do the kids. Don't mess with our Foxy. Take care, guys. Go the Dogs.